Welcome to the College Football Bros, the podcast ranking Pac-12 head coaches. And now, here are your hosts, Michael, Ryan, and Trey Newman.
Welcome to the College Football Bros podcast. I am Michael Newman, and I'm joined by the brother who never cougs it.
Oh, I sure don't. That's me, Ryan Newman.
And by the other brother who always bears down.
That's true. Trey Newman.
Okay, we have made it to the penultimate episode of Rankings Week, the Conference of Champions, the Pac-12. Tomorrow, of course, we're going to cover the mighty SEC, so be sure you're subscribed on YouTube and in your podcast app. But let's start our Pac-12 head coach rankings at the bottom. And Trey, who is lucky number 12?
Wow. I don't think this is any surprise to any of us. It's Karl Dorrell of Colorado. I mean, this was one of the more head-scratching hires that we've seen in recent history, at least. It's mainly just because it was completely out of left field, and he wasn't on many people's radar. He hasn't been a head coach since UCLA over a dozen years ago, and that wasn't even a successful stint. He's been primarily a position coach in the NFL, so he might be a little out of touch with the college game. I mean, I will gladly be proven wrong if this ends up working out, but do you guys think, out of all the coaches, do you think this was probably the easiest to maybe rank?
Yeah, I mean...
Other than Mike Locksley? Yes.
Oh, if you're talking different conferences.
If you're talking countrywide, yeah.
Yeah, I would say Mike Locksley was the easiest, number 14 or last place, but Karl Dorrell, yeah, was also fairly easy. But yeah, I mean, any hire can be successful. We say this all the time, and we'll get to a coach who is much higher on this list now than he would have been when he was first hired. We thought it was also a bad hire, but yeah, I agree with you, Trey. It doesn't inspire a lot of confidence.
I mean, he had one good year at UCLA. I mean, the other years were about 500. One good year where he went 10-2. But the two losses were by 47 points to USC and 38 points to Arizona. So it's not like it was some great 10-2 UCLA type of team where they were flirting with, national prominence. They weren't even close. And they were 4-0 in one-score games. So that was just a luck of the draw type of year. And we all agree. It's no doubt about it. He's the last place in the Pac-12 right now.
Yeah, I mean...
By the way, can I mention each episode I get a little bit darker on my... I don't exactly have the best lighting in my closet, and the daylight's running out here, and I got lamps galore in my bedroom, but it's just not... if you don't have those overhead can lights, it's hard to do it.
Well, we can see you well enough, Ryan. Actually, you're looking better and better as time passes, I would say.
Okay.
No, and in Colorado's defense, they were put in a really, really tough spot with the timing of Mel Tucker going to Michigan State. So
that's very true.
I'm not sure who they really could have gotten. I would have tried to go after Troy Calhoun right there in the state at Air Force, but who knows if that was even an option.
Yeah, that's... I mean, we all agree on that, but it's a hard sell for some people to go for that type of coach.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Number 11. Pretty easily have him at number 11 here, although Michael put him at 10 for some odd reason. So we all agree he sucks.
Okay. Wow. All right. Kevin Sumlin does not suck. Let's not say that, Ryan.
He's just not a very good ball coach at this point in his career. 9-15 is 2 years at Arizona. Took over a decent program. They won 7 games the year before he got there, so it's not like he took over a horrible situation there. I mean, it's just been a huge disappointment. He had an electric quarterback. It didn't quite pan out with Khalil Tate, and then the recruiting is probably the most disappointing thing, even more so than the on-field stuff. It's just bottom of the Pac-12 type bad. So he's been getting outclassed by Herm Edwards this past year, and it's a bad look, man. He's probably going to be gone after this year. I got to be honest.
Yeah, he might need to make a bowl game in order to keep his job, and we'll see. So yeah, I guess the reason maybe I'm one slot higher, it sounds like, than you guys was I am valuing a little bit his first of all at Houston. Great job there. Yeah. I know that's getting kind of a long time ago. And then at A&M, it's not like that stint was horrible. He did well enough to, well, first of all, it started out super well. He went 11-2 early in his tenure there. I think maybe his first year. And then the worst season he had there was 8-5. So he was kind of like just good enough to like.
I think those were his last 3 years. I think were like 8-5, 8-5, 8-5.
Exactly. So
I mean, go ahead, Mike. Yeah.
So I just say he's proven he's not a terrible coach. Obviously, the Arizona stint has been terrible, but I don't know. It just didn't work out, I guess.
If you told me a year or two ago that we'd have him ranked this low, I would have slapped that person so hard in the face. Like, you're crazy. Like,
what if it was our mom, Trey? What if our mom told you that? Wow,
okay,
you slap
fair.
our mom? That's
everyone except mom. But Ryan, you mentioned Khalil Tate. They had other weapons like JJ Taylor running. Like they had players, and it just has not panned out. And we'll see. Hopefully, I hope he turns it around.
Okay, we are to number 10 on our list here, and it is Clay Helton from my alma mater, USC. So here's the thing. I have wanted Clay Helton to get fired after each of the past 2 seasons, like I would say most people at USC and most fans around the country thought he should be as well. But there are some good things to say about him. So year 1, under him, his first full season, USC finished ranked number 3 in the country and won the Rose Bowl. So he is capable of leading a good team. Year 2, we finished ranked 12th and made it to the Cotton Bowl.
Use the we word.
I'm using the we. Hey, come on. I can use the we. Why not? Yeah, I'm sure when we were talking about Nebraska, we probably threw in some we's.
Yeah, I'm sure I threw in some we's last episode. Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, it started off not as bad. I mean, I guess you could say it started off well, looking back at least. The last 2 years have been terrible, so it's fair that he's this far down. But I will say he has a chance to climb because 2020 with Keaton Slovis, great young quarterback potentially, and a really good staff around Clay Helton right now. Recruiting starting to really pick up for 2021, so there are some positive signs, but the underperformance in the last 2 years makes it fair to put him 10th.
Yeah, I mean, the recruiting so far in 2021 has been good, but I mean, you can't excuse 2020's just abomination of a class. That was just the worst ever. And then Clancy Pendergast, still the defensive coordinator there, Mike, right?
No, he's not.
That's right. I know. Todd Orlando.
Exactly.
Todd Orlando.
Yep. Hired Todd Orlando from Texas.
Todd Orlando doesn't exactly instill a ton of confidence either. So we'll see. The defense really needs to turn around for them to get to that point where I'm feeling confident. But dude, how can, Helton has just led them down like, wow, so fast. The Sam Darnold was kind of his saving grace there, and he didn't even start him his first year. For some whatever reason, he was starting Max Brown. He was horrible. So I don't know. Helton lucked in with Sam Darnold's situation, but I don't, he's somehow keeping this job, and he's been able to give a decent staff around him, so he might be able to salvage it another year or two. But it's just, I don't know. If he's not the luckiest coach out there he's up there.
The moment JT Daniels went down, the writing was on the wall. It's like, this is done. There's nothing. But since then, I mean, not saying their on-field play like really improved, but Keaton Slovis provided hope. Michael, what you talked about with the coaching staff around him, there's some hope. And then the next year's recruiting class, there's some hope. So it was like he's kind of gone like this, and then hopefully it's kind of going back up. I'm making it down. If you're listening, I'm saying he's kind of going down, and now he's kind of climbing back up the mountain. So we'll see if he can continue to rise it. But he's got the hottest seat of them all out there.
For sure. Okay.
Now, speaking of another guy that we kind of didn't really envision having this low, is number 9, Chip Kelly of Crosstown.
Yeah, I got a big beef
UCLA.
On this one with Michael.
Michael was a little bit more favorable on Chip here than Ryan and I. So before Ryan and I kind of play down on Chip Kelly, what did you see on Chip?
Well, this Chip Kelly is a tough one to rank for sure, because he did an incredible job at Oregon. I know that was quite a while ago, but still it was so good that it's hard to ignore. And like we said with Scott Frost on the Big Ten episode, it was only 2 years ago where everyone in the country wanted Chip Kelly. You thought he was not Ryan. Okay, Ryan's raising his hand. I know you were always lower on Chip Kelly, but for the most part, people thought that was an A+ hire for UCLA to get Chip Kelly. So I'm still taking that into account a little bit. It's going to take a while for him to climb to the bottom or to fall to the bottom.
Well, he's on his way.
He is on his way. The first 2 years at UCLA have been bad. And the first year he made a really bad, I think, strategic error in the manner in which he was recruiting, not offering a lot of scholarships. And that's going to come back to bite him for sure.
Just not caring about recruiting at all.
Seemingly not caring. You could characterize
kind of
it
a bad
that
deal.
way. What's that?
It's just, it's not like he's recruiting well now.
No, but it was
still
better.
recruiting horribly.
It was better. I don't know. I just still hold out some hope that he's a good coach because he was so great at Oregon, and even the Eagles for a year or two was really good. So I don't know. And he didn't inherit a program that was in good shape. So
Wasn't in horrible shape. They made a bowl game the year before he got there.
Yeah,
I know. I just
they
need
weren't
to see more than 2
good,
years
but their
of being bad.
recruiting was pretty good prior to him. So the talent was somewhat there, but yeah, success wasn't. The other negative factor though was not just the fact that he hasn't recruited that well. It's just that there's been a mass exodus of players leaving the Bruins, which isn't the greatest sign. But all of that said, they have played primarily underclassmen the first couple of years, so he could potentially turn it around this next year or two because of all that young talent that's now going to be playing. I mean, I don't know how much better they can improve, but if you're a UCLA fan, that's what you're hoping.
Yeah.
So Ryan, where did I have Chip Kelly ranked?
You have him at 6th.
Okay, so it's not like I'm saying he's great.
He's not a top half of the Pac-12 at this point. There's no way. You had him ahead of Justin Wilcox, Herm Edwards.
Okay.
No way. No way.
Right,
Herm I can maybe validate, but anyways, yeah.
I mean, not
we'll see.
now.
I just think there's still some upside with Chip Kelly, but clearly Ryan does
you
not
keep
see
thinking
it.
that, Mike. You're like wanting to not. You're kind of the USC fan that's like, oh yeah, they'll be good. You don't want to. What do you call that?
I'm like trying to reverse jinx UCLA is what you're saying?
Yeah, reverse psychology type of deal.
Okay.
Oh no, I'm sure it's going to be great. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure I'm saying it's going to be great. I just am somewhat hopeful. Okay. Who's next, Ryan?
Jonathan Smith, number 8 here. I had him the highest. That's a nice eyebrow raise on that picture there. I had him 6th. You guys have him 9th. I think that's a little harsh for the job he's done so far at Oregon State. Took over a complete absolute mess thanks to Gary Anderson. And it was just, I don't know if there was a worse Power 5 job in the country at that point than Oregon State. Going 5-7 last year was a great coaching job. They lost 3 games by 3 points or less. So they were so close to going bowling. And I guarantee you, if they made a field goal in one of those games and one of them, and they made a bowl, he would be a top 5 easily.
With 4 minutes to go or something.
There you go. So if one of those games turns around and makes a field goal, they win, they go bowling. Nationally, he's getting so much publicity for what a great coaching job, and I guarantee you in this list, you guys would have put him where I did.
Maybe you're right. I think the reason he wasn't higher for me, I mean, I'm bullish on Jonathan Smith, and I think what he's done there the first 2 years, obviously first year, you kind of give him as year 0. So year 2, going 5-7, that's very good. I wouldn't expect many other coaches to do better than that. But I took a look at what Gary Anderson did in his first 2 years, almost identical. I think he went 4-8 instead of 5-7, but whatever, close enough. And then you saw what happened to Gary Anderson in year 3. So I guess I need
Gary Anderson took over a program that wasn't in complete shambles.
I mean, I don't know, but I think it's tough. Oregon State's a tough job for anybody, but my point is I want to see more than one somewhat promising year from Jonathan Smith before I vault him higher.
Fair.
Yeah, like I was really encouraged. I am just like exactly like Michael, I'm bullish on Smith, but I guess he just needs to prove it to me one more time. And it's funny, when I made my list of making him 8th or 9th, I was almost like wondering if you guys were going to have him lower than me. Like I actually thought I was going to stick out, but Ryan was more aggressive.
Yeah, and as we were about to move on here, the 7 coaches that we have left, I mean, it's not a great group when you compare it to the other top conferences, but each of these coaches individually is solid.
There's no bad coaches whatsoever.
Yeah, they're not bad. So I don't think it's that big of an insult to have Jonathan Smith here. But moving on to number 7 on our list, we have Nick Rolovich at Washington State. And I was the highest on him. I had him number 4. And
very bold.
I guess so, but I don't really feel amazing about anyone ahead of him. I know I just said there's a decent list, but that's all it is decent. And I think Nick Rolovich is decent. You look at the job he did at Hawaii. They hadn't made a bowl game for 5 straight years when he was hired, and they now went to 3 bowl games in 4 years under Rolovich, so including a 10-win season last year. I just think with him, his teams are probably always going to have a good offense, and I think he's going to do a good job at Wazoo.
The reason I like him is because of the fit. He fits Washington State perfect, not only with his personality, kind of just following what Leach had, but also, like you said, Michael, is the offense. Like the personnel that he inherits should blend right in to what he wants to do with his offense. So I think it's a perfect marriage in terms of Washington State and Rolovich.
Yeah, I'll admit that it is a good fit. And I had him 8th. It's not like I had him like 12th or anything. I just think what he did at Hawaii was good. I wouldn't call it amazing. I mean, he was 28-27, and he had a losing record in conference play in his 4 years there. So it wasn't like he was killing it.
But look at what Hawaii was before. I mean, they were terrible.
Yeah, he finished well. His last couple of years were pretty good.
Mm-hmm. So I just feel like Wazoo's a tougher act than Hawaii to compete. And Leach obviously did a great job making them respectable. But I don't think Rolovich will have the same success that Leach has had.
Maybe not, but that's a pretty high bar. He can be less successful and still be successful.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough.
Okay. Moving on a little bit further south, we are going to go to number 6, Justin Wilcox for Cal. I was actually the highest on Wilcox, and you guys were a little bit lower. So I guess, I don't know, Michael or Ryan, who wants to take the lead on
Michael
your
had
thoughts
him,
on
what,
Wilcox?
You had him 8th, Michael?
I don't remember where I had him, but
you had him 8th.
It was lower than you guys.
I had him 5th. Trey had him 4th. So you were definitely the lowest of us 3.
Okay, well then I'll tell you why I was the lowest, and you guys can rebut my argument. So, and I like Justin Wilcox, so I don't want to, I'm not super low on him, but his record at Cal is 20-18, which I think is basically par for the course, given what Sonny Dykes had done there the previous couple years. And Wilcox's recruiting classes, they've been in like the high 30s, low 40s, which is slightly worse than you would expect Cal to do. And
good start to the 2020 class, 21 class.
That's for sure. So maybe things are starting to go upwards, but still, I expected a lot more on the recruiting front from Justin Wilcox. So those are the reasons I was lower. I just need to see him prove it a little bit more. But I will say, I think he has a chance. This is a big year for him because he could vault up this list. He's got Chase Garbers finally has a quarterback because his offenses have just been horrible.
Yeah, they were bad until recently.
But now Chase Garbers looks very promising. They did lose a lot on defense though. So their season win total going into next year is about 7. So if they go 7-5 again, what's the difference between Justin Wilcox and like Pat Narduzzi? It essentially would be the same to me.
Yeah, not a huge difference, I guess, between there. But he and I, Justin Wilcox and I, have the same birthday. So
wow,
wow, that means Michael, you should peg him up a couple notches.
I'm thinking about putting him 12th after that. I don't know.
So I looked more in terms of he has improved them in terms of the overall wins. Wins doesn't say everything, but he's improved them in the overall wins since he's been there. But I will say, like, up until this past season, I didn't have a lot of faith because of those offenses, and Garbers at least is adding some life there. So now with the defensive attrition that they have, I still think he can churn out a good enough defense. So if they can stay healthy, like you said, Mike, 2020 is a big year for him.
Yep. I agree on that.
Yeah, and maybe I would be more bullish on him had Garbers not gotten hurt, and they're, instead of, what, they go 8-5, if they're going 9 wins, who knows, maybe they got lucky and get to 10, then of course the narrative would be
they were undefeated with Garbers.
Yeah, so they probably would have gone 12-0 then.
Yeah, exactly. National title. Alrighty, let's move on to number 5 here, a guy that's taken a big jump if we did this same episode last year. We got Herm Edwards. I had him at 4, which obviously is very high. Michael, not quite as impressed, but he's definitely took a leap in your opinion too. You had him at 7th. But behind Chip Kelly, I will mention that again, which got to disagree on that one. But he's 15-11 in 2 years, has a stud at quarterback in Jaden Daniels. He's only going to be a sophomore, bringing in really, really good talent around him. You have to be impressed. I don't know how you can't be impressed with what he's doing there, especially considering the other Pac-12 South coaches, other than Kyle Whittingham, are less than stellar. So if I had to pick a school that's going to run the South for the next 4 or 5 years, I mean,
whoa,
who's it going to be? Who's it going to be?
I don't know.
USC?
I mean, SC is still pretty good. They're not like, I mean, ASU's.
USC's the favorite probably to win the Pac-12 this upcoming year. It's going to be close with Arizona State, and they're bringing in probably going to bring in a top 10 class next year, but they did have some bad classes, so that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I totally agree. We all, no way we saw this coming. Herm has really impressed me, and the fact that now what's cool about him is that you kind of know, okay, assuming that Daniel stays healthy, it's like you've got some piece to build around that it gives you some encouragement for their future, for the short-term future, at least for ASU.
Yeah, I do think it helped that he walked into a ready-made situation with Manny Wilkins and N'Keal Harry year 1, so kind of bridged the gap there.
Who was the quarterback this past year?
Exactly, but then both of those guys were gone, and they were even better this past year, going 8-5. So yeah, he's proving a lot. I mean,
and he's got a lot of young talent on defense, man.
That's the thing is, the recruiting and the young quarterback is what gets you excited. Going 7-6 and 8-5 at Arizona State, it's fine. It's good, but it's the hope for the future that I think bumped Herm up the list. Okay, next we are to number 4 on the list, and it is Jimmy Lake at Washington, which he's never been a head coach. So a lot of people might be surprised to see him on the list. He, of course, was just promoted from defensive coordinator to head coach with Chris Peterson stepping down. Ryan, you were actually the highest. You had him 3rd. So I'll ask you first, what makes you so confident that he's already the 3rd best coach in the Pac-12?
Well, he's unproven, obviously, as a head coach. But if you take a look at what he's done in the positions that he's had, it's about as good as you can possibly do. I mean, he was a secondary coach for a long time, churned out elite talent after elite talent, and turned guys that were good recruits into just NFL draft picks, first day, second day type NFL draft picks. And then his 4 years as a defensive coordinator here at UW, they finished in the top 10 of points per game defense 3 out of those 4 years. And the 1 year where they didn't, which was this last year, they finished 16th. But they lost so much talent off of that 2018 defense. So, I mean, consistent excellence in every single thing that he's done. Chris Peterson tabbed him as his guy, and we all know Chris Peterson knows a thing or two about coaching. So he's an ace recruiter, great developer of talent. I think he's going to thrive in a good spot there. So I know it's crazy putting a guy that hasn't coached all the way up at 3rd, but I'm high on him. I think he's going to do really well.
I think Ryan is also banking on the fact that Washington's a good job right now, and Peterson left him in good hands. So, and not to mention Lake can recruit like crazy apparently. So, I'm more buying Washington.
Yeah, that's fair. But the recruiting is the big thing here. Like, I have such high confidence that he's gonna bring in great classes. So that's huge when it comes to being a head coach. And yeah, he's been the guy in waiting. They kept bumping up his salary. Even Kwiatkowski kind of stepped aside and let Jimmy Lake run the defense, just because I think the whole staff just wanted to keep him, and they knew he was probably overqualified to be a defensive coordinator, but I guess they kind of kept him there as the coach in waiting. So I agree with you, Ryan. I have a lot of confidence that
but the thing for me that was hardest, Jimmy Lake was probably the hardest coach for me to judge, because he was a first-year guy, and pretty much for every conference, anytime there was a first-year guy, I pretty much had default towards the bottom. But I had to weigh the factors of what you guys just talked about. So it's he was difficult for me to rank.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, this whole Pac-12 jumble of guys is difficult to rank.
100% agree. This is the hardest conference to do.
It was by far, because, I belittled Justin Wilcox a little bit, but like, you could stick him fourth, and I would not call you crazy at all. Like,
it's a battle between what have you done for me lately, between who's the new guy on town, who's the guy who's proven stuff in the past. It's really tough. A guy like Clay Helton, who's had some success, but has just benefited from being given a lot of. This was the hardest conference. There's no doubt about that.
Okay.
All right, moving on to number 3, Stanford's David Shaw. So, Ryan, you were the lowest on him by far. You actually had him at number 7.
I'm ready for this one.
Okay, tell us why.
Okay. You're not going to propose a question. You're just going to say
no.
Okay.
Well, you were just you were ready to jump in.
No, I'm ready to go. So, David Shaw really inherited a fantastic situation from Jim Harbaugh. Great previous coach before him. And he reaped the benefits. There's no doubt about that. So David Shaw's first 5 years at Stanford, I consider those the Harbaugh effect years. Okay, because he still had some people players that were recruited by Harbaugh and whatnot. So 64-17 in those years. I mean, those are pretty darn good 5 years, right? So 64-17. The last 3 years post Harbaugh effect, 22-17. So huge, ginormous difference in the Harbaugh effect and the Node Harbaugh effect. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I think it's the kind of like the Tom Osborne effect with Frank Solich. After those 5 years ran out, poop hit the fan, so to say. So,
yeah. Well, hey, Frank Solich has turned out to be a pretty dang good coach.
Yeah, he's done all right at Ohio, but I just don't think Shaw is all that great. I think he's just kept the program going for a while, and now it's just been going downhill.
It has. Since they made the Rose Bowl in 2015, they've gotten progressively worse every single year. And yeah, it does seem, this is definitely well, I guess we had him third though, but I don't feel great about it. Really, the difference between 3rd and 7th on this list was like razor thin. So I think the fact that he's still 3rd, despite what he's how far Stanford has been falling the last couple of years, just shows that the Pac-12 has a weak list of coaches here.
Yeah, I've always been kind of low on Shaw because of the points you laid out, Ryan. But I mean, he did every year that went by, he still kind of kept doing it. But I agree, the last 2 years are cause for concern, and I would be a little bit worried. But it's just kind of like I had to place him somewhere, and so he just kind of fell here for me.
Yeah,
you guys both had him 3rd. I just feel like this past year was kind of now this is what I thought. Like, he was hanging on by a thread. I always felt, even before this past year, I was not super high on him because
I'm with you.
Drop, and it was
Agreed.
like this year where it finally happens. Like, yep, okay.
He did have some injuries this year, so that's a factor. But yeah, I think though, even though I kind of agree with what you said about the Harbaugh effect, I think that's probably the harshest possible way of putting it. Like, for 5 years, he's got to have, his fingerprints are all over that team too. You don't just in year 5. That's kind of far away removed from Harbaugh.
Same thing as Solich.
Same as Solich, you're saying?
Yep.
Okay. All right. I mean, I mostly agree with you, but I think we're not giving him quite enough credit. That's why I had him 3rd, I guess.
Alrighty. Well, good stuff, boys. Moving on to number 2 here. We got Mario Cristobal. Yeah, let's see.
Cristobal.
Cristobal. I had him number 1. You guys both had him second. So we flipped-flopped Kyle Whittingham and Mario Cristobal here. So I'll just say the reason why I put Cristobal number 1 over Whittingham is because he's already won a Pac-12 title and he won a Rose Bowl. And those are 2 things that Whittingham hasn't done in his tenure there at Utah. And because of the recruiting. I mean, it's just been on another level there for Oregon. So I don't know what else you really want from Cristobal to prove that he is the top-tier coach in the Pac-12.
I mean, I think he's a top-tier coach. That's why I had him number 2.
The top coach.
Oh, the top coach. Okay, so yeah, we might as well have a Whittingham conversation now too. So the reason I went with Whittingham number 1 is I think he's at a much tougher job. I think it's a lot tougher to recruit to Utah than it is to Oregon for sure. He's been there for 15 years, and they're almost always good. Like even the transitioning to the Pac-12, there was a couple years, I think they went 5-7. But since then, they've been winning 9, 10, 11 games every single year pretty much. They've finished ranked in the top 25 for the past 6 seasons. I just think he has a longer track record than Mario Cristobal, even though Mario Cristobal has won, well, I guess 2 years now, but his one big year this year is great and the recruiting is promising. I just still have more trust in Whittingham.
Yeah, I mean, the Utes have won the South. They've won the South 3 of the last 5 years. He's got an 11-3 bowl record. And this past year, Utah was in the playoff hunt until the last week of the season. But I do agree with you. Like, these guys are 1 and 1A to me.
Yeah,
it's not even 1-2. It's like 1 and 1A.
I'm with you.
Like, I agree because Cristobal's recruiting right now is very good, and they obviously just won the Rose Bowl. So it's totally splitting hairs with these guys. I just went with more of the longevity.
I don't want to make it seem though that like Oregon is just like the ultimate job though. It's not like it's USC, Texas,
way better
Florida
than Utah
type job. It's better than Utah, yes, but winning the Pac-12, winning a Rose Bowl at Oregon is a huge, huge accomplishment. So yeah. I don't want to undersell what he's done there.
Yeah,
already.
that's why I think Chip Kelly is so great. You can't undersell what Chip Kelly did there.
I don't want to undersell what he did at Oregon, but that was a long ass time ago. People have caught up.
Okay.
The one thing we kind of touched on it in terms of the overall conference. It's like this is one of of all the conferences I'd like the listeners to maybe rank them themselves and kind of see where it shakes out, because I guarantee you our kind of 3 through 8 would all vary, and you could make a case to me and I wouldn't really argue with it. Like it wouldn't faze me in the least if some of those guys were reshuffled. It's just one giant pool in my opinion.
Okay. I think it really
I think we've talked about sorry to interrupt you there, Ryan, but are we all good on Kyle Whittingham? Should I move and for the YouTube viewers show us the list of 12 coaches?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
So I don't know. To me, I mean, you guys may be higher on obviously Chip Kelly, but I feel like it's a clear cut 4 bottom guys. You got Chip Kelly, Clay Helton, Kevin Smith, Karl Dorrell.
Kevin Sumlin, yeah.
Or what'd I say?
I think you said Kevin Smith.
Oh, whoops. Kevin, well, the running back, come on.
Yeah.
From UCF back in the day. Yeah, I feel like 9 is where it just cuts off. Like, I don't have any faith in those particular coaches. 8 and up, yeah, I'm good with any of those guys. You can pretty much stick them. So what we got, 3 through 8, like you kind of mentioned, Mike, you could sort of put them anywhere. And I could agree with you.
Yeah. But man, I mean, just looking at this list though, it's weak. Like, this is clearly the weakest conference, right? Because Whittingham and Cristobal, okay. But after that, like,
yeah,
what are we doing here? We have Jimmy Lake 4th. He's never coached before.
I know. That's what's weird.
I put him 3rd, and he's never been a head coach. I know.
It's a weird list, though, too, because like 9, 10, 11, a year or two ago would have been 3, 4, 5 or something.
True.
It's weird how it's changed.
Well, 9 and 11 in particular could have been high, but yeah, it's the reason why the Conference of Champions is not the Conference of Champions anymore.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay. any closing thoughts? That's all you guys got with the Pac-12?
I guess. I mean, we could keep going, but let's move on here.
Okay. Awesome. Well, that does it for our Pac-12 rankings episode. Let us know in the comments on YouTube and on social media why we are idiots, why...
but keep it college football related, please.
Oh, well, yeah, please. Just don't attack us personally. I'd really prefer that.
Yeah.
Again, be sure you're subscribed because tomorrow we are going to go from the worst conference in terms of coaches to the best, the SEC. So we'll talk to you then.
You've been listening to the College Football Bros. If you have any questions for the next podcast, email them to collegefootballbros@gmail.com. To keep up with the brothers on social media, like them on Facebook at College Football Bros, follow them on Instagram at College Football Bros, and for their commentary on Saturdays, follow them on Twitter at CFB Bros. Thanks for listening.